And so I guess the main question you're probably all thinking is, why are we here? This conference has come off the back of a project that we've been working on with the partners I just mentioned, looking at smart approaches to small-scale irrigation in northern Uganda. I'll discuss that in a bit more in a minute, but what we really wanted to do was use that as a platform to get people talking about irrigation, small-scale agriculture, and how to enable and remove the barriers to irrigation improvement in that kind of context. So that's what we want to do today. We want to discuss those issues surrounding small-scale agriculture and irrigation. We want to talk about the solutions. We want to find out what everyone in this conference has been doing in terms of innovative approaches, whether that be technology, business models, different kinds of ideas. And we want people to share their experiences and to share any solutions that they've come up with through their work. So we want all that to culminate in, we hope, everyone here having a better understanding of small-scale agricultural problems and the possible solutions or the current solutions to address challenges and barriers in that space. And we also want to hopefully stimulate further work, new solutions, new projects, new ideas between the participants in this conference. And it would be fantastic if we could be part of kind of catalyzing something like that. So in terms of what we'll be doing today, we've gone through our webinar setup, you'll be pleased to know. This is the introduction, and we have a keynote speech from Mr. Alfred Okot-Okidi, who is the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Water Environment in Uganda. So we thank Alfred for coming along, and we'll pass over to him next. We also have speakers from our partners at Future Pump, so that's Helen Davies, you'll see on the chat bar there, who'll be talking to us about their work and their technology in solar water pumping. We have Farm Africa, I think Anastasia, you'll see in the sidebar there, talking as well in that session. Moving into the second session, we'll be talking more about smart technologies, and our partner Abby at Farm Hand will be talking to us about how to deliver precise irrigation through innovative means using smart communications and that kind of technology. And then finally, in session 3, we'll be talking about how do we make these solutions inclusive. How do we make the benefits of agriculture, of irrigation and small-scale agriculture available to all? So in this session, we'll have Alex Maguma, who is the Agriculture Officer in Arua, Uganda, who works with around, I think, 2,000 farmers in this sort of space. And as well as that, we'll have Jennifer, who works with the Gulu Agricultural Development Company, so that's GADC, our other partners. And they're an aggregator for small-scale farmers, and they work with over 200,000 farmers in northern Uganda. So a lot of on-the-ground experience there, and I think a lot of lessons to be learned. And one thing we will be doing within these sessions, you may have noticed, is breakout rooms. So at the end of each session, we want everyone to come together to talk about what we've been discussing, to talk about, as I said, these solutions, these experiences, and these challenges. So you will be put into breakout rooms, which will stay the same throughout the conference, so we can get to know each other. We'll be taking around 10 to 15 minutes to have a little chat between ourselves. So there'll be 4 breakout rooms, depending on the number who are in the conference at the moment. I think we're about 30. So maybe around 8 of us, I'd say. Terrible maths, sorry. And within these 10 to 15 minute breakout rooms, we'll nominate a note taker. So we want people to volunteer to take a few notes, just a few key points that are kind of pull together the discussions had in the breakout rooms. And then we'll take them back to the plenary. We'll get updates from Kathy saying how long we have left. We'll take them back to the plenary, and we will each present what we talked about and any interesting points or ideas. So the purpose there is really just to get everyone discussing and participating. So we really want you to, have some enthusiasm and to take your ideas into those breakout rooms. Okay, so that's how the day will go. Any issues we come across during the day, like I said, please direct to the scene team, Kathy, Dom, or myself. So moving on to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about the rationale for how we got involved, or how we came about this, came to having this conference, basically. So we've been working for the last year and a half nearly on ReFruit, which is a Innovate UK funded research and development project. It stands for Resource Efficient Farming by Renewable Ugandan Irrigation Technology. A bit of a mouthful, I know, but nicely comes together as ReFruit. And what that is our attempts to build a smarter, more precise way of delivering irrigation at both small scales and larger scales, but we focused on small scale farmers in this instance. So our in-country partners, GADC, as I mentioned, work with over 200,000 farmers as an aggregator, and they were our link to the ground. So this is in northern Uganda, near Rhino Camp, up in the Arua district. So what did we actually do? The technology we had, we pulled together was a solar irrigation pump, which is developed by Future Pump, which is designed for small scale irrigation. And I won't talk you through the specifics of that because they're talking later in the conference. As well as that, we linked up with mobile communications, so an SMS control gateway to allow farmers to interact using their mobile phones with the pump, whether that be finding out how long they've been on, turning them on and off, that kind of thing. And then as well as that, we brought in automatic scheduling. So this is Farmhands Innovation, which we'll talk about later on. But the idea is that we take a type of crop, you take a growth stage of a crop, you take a farm size, that kind of thing. And irrigation schedules can be automatically delivered by an irrigation pump, reducing the need for kind of farmer input for farmer time, that kind of thing. But like I said, this is very brief and we'll discuss this in depth later. Further to this, we put together a farm survey application, which makes understanding where solar pumps are best suited, what scale of solar pumps farmers need, that kind of thing. So that's really about figuring out irrigation needs. So like I said, we'll talk through all these in further detail. I'll take you through a little bit of what we did in the project in our next slide. Please, Kathy. So this is just a quick run through of the project timeline. The main kind of underpinning, I guess, of this project is co-creation. We had some technologies and we had an idea, but what we really needed was on the ground input. So we ran workshops which gathered, input and advice from farmers, from our partners, the aggregator GADC, on how best to design our system, what will work best in the Northern Ugandan context and East African context in general. And I think that may be a talking point for much of the day, is how do you make your technology solutions and so forth appropriate for where they're being delivered. We also ran capacity building training workshops to bring these farmers to better understand the technology, to be more capable in managing the pumps, and to share their knowledge further within their communities. And lastly, we then ran workshops to understand what was going wrong. It's a research and development project after all, so we hit many barriers and snags, again, which I'm sure we will discuss today. But the main thing was understanding what those were and finding solutions for them. So we ran workshops and ongoing engagement to do that. As I said, we brought together 3 technology components essentially: a survey to understand irrigation needs, a solar pump with smart data logging capabilities, and an SMS gateway and communication system to allow farmers to interact with their pump, as well as remote monitoring and so forth, and automatic scheduling of irrigation system. I guess one of the major things we learned through this project is the importance of feedback from our aggregator, from the coordinators of our project, and from the farmers themselves was fantastic, and has actually brought us to a point where we delivered across 2 pilot trials an irrigation product, a precision irrigation pump, in fact, which had some fantastic impacts. We found there is a labor reduction time of around 60% against kind of traditional hand-delivered irrigation. We managed to deliver over 350 hours of irrigation across our pilots. And we increased income for farmers by around 14%, as well as creating greater time, I guess. Reducing labor time means there's time for, opening of new land, for diversifying farm activity. So kind of, looking after animals and that kind of thing, as well as second jobs. So kind of secondary income generation. Through the project, we have several hundred, I think, interested in the technology. And, we're at the end of a research development project, and we're looking for a way forward. We want to know how we extend our reach, how we extend our project, how we take this further, and how we use what we've created to enable people to improve their irrigation systems, both in Uganda and further afield. So that's a fairly comprehensive run through of what we've been up to. I hope that's been of interest to everyone.